The meeting to order. James Bell, Amy Callan,
Here.
Ryan Chetney,
Here.
Tom DeCastro,
Here.
Brandon Legault, Linda Serino,
Here.
Sam Tripp.
Here.
At this time, you can move to the tour.
Okay.
Welcome everybody to Minetto Elementary. I'm Jenny Sullivan, the principal, and we're actually going to start the tour in the library, so if you follow me.
It's time that everybody would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, I will turn it over to the superintendent for his report.
Okay. Big crowd tonight. Came around that corner, I got a little nervous. I was like, oh boy. We have several things to talk about tonight, but the first two things are the most important things. Last year we started a practice of introducing all of our probationary teachers. And we're going to continue that practice tonight, and I'm going to be asking each of our 7 building principals to come to the mic and introduce their new probationary teachers. Tell us a little bit about their educational background. For those that have some teaching experience, we're eager to hear about that. And this is an opportunity for the board to meet new teachers who are building a career in Oswego. We know that the recruitment and retention of great teachers is the most important thing that we do. And we also know that gaining a probationary position in the Oswego City School District is a huge accomplishment and something you should be very proud of. It also comes with a great deal of expectation from the district for high performance as we work to make every child ready for graduation. The second thing that's most important to recognize are teachers in our district who are granted tenure. And we're going to start the practice of asking teachers as they're granted tenure to come to the board meeting when their tenure is granted. We haven't started that practice yet, but we would like to start tonight by recognizing teachers who this year have been granted tenure and just call their name and introduce them. It's a great accomplishment, and we're proud to have you work for us. So I'm not sure that every teacher who is being recognized for tenure is here tonight, but I'll call their names. And if you have received tenure, please stand so we can recognize you. Stephanie Dawson. And you get the official clock lanyard for getting tenure. They 4 years. Kevin Morgan.
Congratulations.
Tressa Lee
She's not here.
is not here tonight, but congratulations to her. The next person I hired in the district, and I'm proud to see that she received tenure, Tiana Smith from Riley. Another Riley teacher, Nestor Avila. One of our music teachers, Kristen Jorgensen. Nikki Carey couldn't be with us tonight, but she sent me a nice email today, and I appreciate that, and we congratulate her as well. Michelle Peterson. Taylor Castaldo. Ashton Latula. And finally, Brian Smith, another one of our new teachers. Brian sent me an email as well. He's not able to be here tonight, but we congratulate him on his tenure. And we look forward to doing this regularly as teachers receive tenure and also administrators. So thank you very much. Okay. Next, I'm going to be calling principals up, and I'm asking principals to introduce their new staff. As I explained, we're proud to have probationary teachers join our district. That joy comes with some high expectations for you, but I think it's important for our school community to hear from the principals a little bit about the people who are part of our educational community. I'd like to call Mrs. Volkemer first, Dr. Volkemer, because she has the first holiday concert tonight. And I know she's chomping at the bit to get that.
Fitchu claims that yesterday.
Fitchu
Oh,
had it last night.
oh, okay. Bitch will come next. Sorry, Donna.
It was great.
Well, I do it.
Testing. So I do have two people that I would like to welcome and introduce to the board. The first one is Michelle Colagiovanni. She grew up in Syracuse area and is a 2007 graduate of Oswego State University. She comes to the Oswego City School District with a variety of experiences working with children in different capacities. She served in 3 long-term placements at the middle school level and has also worked as a teaching assistant and as a special education at the primary level. In addition, she spent time as a homebound instructor working with students of all grade levels who are unable to attend public schools for extended periods of time. After spending 5 years raising her own children, she's excited to finally have her own classroom. Michelle lives in Baldwinsville currently and is mom of 2 sweet and energetic little ones who recently started kindergarten and 1st grade. Michelle Colagiovanni.
Will you have your teachers stand while you're talking about them to add a little higher element of anxiety?
This next one will appreciate that. There has been no hazing at KPS for this one.
No.
So, Kristen Frost, please stand. Kristen Frost was born and raised in Oswego, New York. She attended both Layton and Minetto elementary schools and was a high school cheerleader. Upon her graduation from Oswego, Kristen chose to attend SUNY Oswego instead, with an intent on following her mother's footsteps and becoming an elementary teacher. She saw the passion, excitement, and joy that teaching brought to her mother, and she knew she wanted to be the next generation to help children be successful learners. After student teaching at Layton School and the Oswego Middle School, Kristen achieved her bachelor's in childhood education and subsequently earned a master's degree in literacy from the same institution. The early 2000s brought a glut of teachers into New York State and especially in the central New York area. During this time, Kristen was able to secure a position teaching 3rd grade in Wright Creek Central School District. For 14 additional years, she stayed in Wright Creek. She taught pre-K for a year and then became a reading specialist for 10 years. Although she loved literacy, Kristen missed having a classroom of her own and went on to teach 2nd grade for a few years. Always in the back of her mind was the goal of working in the district that she attended and where her mother worked for so many years. Kristen saw that opportunity arise this summer and decided to take the risk and apply for a position. After 17 years in the same district, it was scary to think about starting fresh, but that's exactly what she did, and she never looked back. Although there are people that she misses, she absolutely loves the Oswego district and its mission to have all students fully prepared and life ready. On a personal note, Kristen is now a mother of 2 energetic boys, one who attends Oswego schools. She is ready to settle down to teach and raise her children in the district of where it is her home.
Thank you. Ms. Simmons, want to go next? You're up.
We have another event going on at Fitchuport School tonight, so my teachers are not here because they're all hosting the Leader in Me Night for parents and students, and there's about 60 people there right now. So anyway, that's where Felicia Wells is, and she is our 1st and 3rd grade special education teacher. She comes from, she attended Simmons College in SUNY Oswego. She's been in education for over 20 years at the preschool level, mostly at St. Luke's. And we wooed her our way because we heard many great things about her. So she loves teaching because every day is different and every day provides educators with the opportunity to make a difference in the lives of children. And when she's not working, she loves spending time with family, traveling, reading, doing yoga, and walking. So that's a little bit about Felicia Wells. Erin Sabatini, too, has over 20 years of experience. She's been with Fitchie Park School the last 3 years and in long-term, sub positions, and most of those years at the preschool level, too. So she is a graduate with a Master's of Science at Oswego State University, and the thing that she loves most about teaching are her students. She really loves seeing them grow and really molds their education and helping them to become leaders. So those are my 2 long-term probationaries. I have a couple of long-term subs, which honorable mentions: Sarah Baber, Ashley Skasha, and Lisa Wells. Also in my building for long-term.
Thank you. Dr. Doty, Riley Elementary School.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to introduce to you 4 very lovely young teachers that have come to Riley Elementary. This is just in the order they submitted their bios to me. So I'm going to start with Lindsay Grazel. And Lindsay is excited to be working with kids. It's always been her passion, beginning with babysitting as a preteen to working as a day camp counselor during the summer while in high school and in college. After graduating from Liverpool High School in 2013, she went to St. John Fisher College, where she earned her BS in childhood and special education with a minor in education, and she's excited to be part of the Oswego City School District. In her free time, she loves to travel to new places. She also enjoys participating in water activities such as paddleboarding and kayaking. Baking new creations is another way she likes to spend free time. Believe me, I know that. She often shares her baking with me, and I can say she is quite talented. It was exciting today. I was able to write a recommendation for her to go on to graduate school. So we're happy for her. Thank you.
Thank you.
Second, I have Morgan Atudis. And Morgan graduated from Oswego City School District in 2008. She received her undergraduate degree from Rochester Institute of Technology in 2012, majoring in photojournalism, minoring in business administration, and concentrating in American Sign Language. Morgan worked as a photojournalist in Boston, Massachusetts, Rochester, New York, and Houston, Texas. In 2015, she discovered her passion for teaching young children. At this time, she returned to Oswego to pursue her graduate degree. And in 2017, Morgan received her master's degree in childhood education from SUNY Oswego. Outside of work at Charles E. Riley, she enjoys being a team captain for the Oswego Relay for Life. She enjoys photographing, hiking, and spending time with her family and close friends. Thank you, Morgan, for joining us. We also have with us Ashley Deming. Ashley is also a native of Oswego, New York. And Ashley can recall that she wanted to be a teacher ever since the time she was in first grade at Fitchie Park School. She is beyond passionate about education and teaching her students. Ashley is especially elated to be working in the community that shaped her into a lifelong learner that she is. Ashley graduated with highest honors from Oswego High School in 2012. She graduated from SUNY Oswego in 2015 with her bachelor's degree in childhood education and a minor in concentration in English. In 2016, Ashley furthered her studies and became dual certified in New York State as a secondary 712 English teacher as well. She is currently pursuing her master's degree in literacy at Oswego State. In her free time, she enjoys camping and do-it-yourself projects around the home. Thank you, Ashley. She's skipping out a little bit of her master's course to be here tonight, so we thank her for that.
Linda, were you a principal at Fitchie?
When she was there?
Yeah.
Yes, I was.
what I thought.
Amanda Barber. Amanda's excited to be working in kindergarten inclusion. She attended SUNY Potsdam, where she received her dual bachelor's in elementary education and sociology, as well as a master's in literacy. She's been teaching children for over 12 years in various grade levels, and she's had the privilege to teach preschool, kindergarten, 3rd, 4th, and also in a 6-to-1-to-1 special education classroom, where she worked with students that had Down syndrome and autism. Ashley also came highly recommended by the superintendent in Lafayette. And so we're very happy to have all 4 of these wonderful people with us to join us at Riley and make things as great as they are there. Thank you.
Ms. Shore, Layton School. Saving Jenny for last.
Not quite as nice as everybody else.
All right.
Sorry. They're not tenured, it's my chance, right?
Are you going to dance for us?
I know, right, I'll dance.
Good evening, everyone. Are you going to say I don't need this?
No.
I'm
well,
looking forward
don't-
to you saying that.
You can have it.
All right, thank you.
I didn't want to, be mean.
I appreciate it. Thank you, sir. This is Kate Bowman. I'm not going to tell you what grade she teaches because I'm going to talk about all her experiences, and then I'm going to tell you what grade she teaches because you're going to see that based on her experience, what a difference it is based on what she's doing this year. So this is Kate Bowman. She comes to us. She is from Oswego, New York. She grew up in Oswego. She graduated from Oswego High School in 2002. She then went to SUNY Oswego for both her undergrad as well as her grad work, both in education. Her undergrad is in early education and her grad work is in literacy. So she comes to us with that experience from SUNY Oswego as well. Once she graduated, she started with the Head Start program in Cleveland, New York. She then went on to teach about 7 years of pre-K at UPK rather at, well, that's the same thing. Yeah, anyway. At Fairgrave in Fulton, where she then came to Oswego. So since 2015, she's taught UPK right at Layton School, so it was an easy transition for her in that way. She taught there for 2 years, and this year she is teaching 6th grade. So the reason why I say that is, yes, and she's finding that there's many similarities, so.
Not different at all, yeah.
Yeah, see, there we go. So just so you know that could be. She has 2 children. She still lives here in Oswego. And one of her sons, his name is Ryan, and he's in 1st grade, right at Layton School, so she can keep a close eye on him. And she also has another son that she hopes will attend Layton starting next year. And one fun fact that you need to know about Kate is that she was one of the original members of the girls' ice hockey team in Oswego. Yeah, so I know that's a big deal around here, right? Hockey's a big deal in Oswego, so, and she was one of the first players to ever play on the team and really started up, so she's pretty excited about that fact, right?
Board down too.
There you go, yes, so we welcome her, she's done an absolutely amazing job. In her bio, she talked a little about all those things she likes to do when she's not in school. I'm telling you right now, she's always in school. So I'm not even going to mention those things, because that's really what her hobby is, she's always with us, so she works very hard. So.
You see me there.
Yes,
I do.
yeah, so she says all those things, but she's mostly with us, so.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Sullivan?
Hi. I have 6 teachers that I'm excited to introduce to you tonight. A couple of them are here and a couple of them couldn't be here. So first I want to mention Miss Marianne Kent. She's in the back. Miss Marianne Kent received her Bachelor of Arts in Childhood Education and her Master's of Arts in Special Education right from SUNY Oswego. Before coming to Minetto, she taught at Cato Meridian Head Start program for 2 years, and she also was a long-term sub in Fort Byron for 2 years. She has 2 sons, one who's 3 and one who's a year old, and currently she's teaching 5th grade here at Minetto Elementary, and she wanted you to know that Minetto already feels like home to her. So we welcome Mary Ann. We're proud to have Heather Lee. who is currently teaching our third grade, one of our third grade integrated co-taught classrooms. Her co-teacher is Angela Campbell. She also graduated from SUNY Oswego with her bachelor's degree in childhood education, and she has subbed in Minetto Elementary for over 10 years. Her 3 sons all attended school here, and she lives really, really close, which makes it very easy for her to come and go whenever she needs to, which she says when she's not working, she's still working. She was a teaching assistant at Oswego Middle School for 2 years, where she helped develop their advisory program. And she knows that teaching is where she belongs, and we love having her here at Minetto Elementary. We have Stephanie Pohl, who comes to us only part of the day, and the other half of the day she spends at Layton Elementary. She's an AIS reading teacher, and she has her master's in literacy education, birth to 6, from SUNY Oswego. She has her bachelor's of science in childhood education, grades 1 through 6, from SUNY Oswego, and an AA in humanities from Onondaga Community College. She wanted to share that she's proud to be working in Oswego City School Districts and feels blessed to work with such caring and dedicated teachers and administrators. She has 3 children at home, and she's very soon expecting another boy. And we have a couple teachers who couldn't be here this evening. Jessica Peters is one of our 3rd grade special education teachers, and some of the teachers that we have are brand new, fresh out of college. Jessica Peters has 1 year of experience, and then she came right to Oswego. She's from Parrish originally. She attended SUNY Oswego for her child education with a concentration in art, and she has her master's from Syracuse University, and she was part of the inclusive special education program and worked a lot with Julie Costin, who's been really instrumental in some of the work that we've been doing here with our co-taught classrooms. She's excited to be here. And we have Emily Polton, who's one of our new speech teachers. She has an associate's degree in liberal arts and sciences, and a bachelor's degree in speech and hearing sciences, and a master's degree in communication disorders and sciences. She has her teaching certification in speech, language disabilities, and is a New York State licensed speech and language pathologist. And she has a national certification of clinical competence. And so we're lucky to have her here. And we have Emily Schutzo, who's our special education teacher from 4th grade. She attended SUNY Oswego for both her bachelor's and master's degree, and worked with Linda Stumer, and is really happy to always have her here to kind of turn to during the days that Linda's here to visit. While she was in Oswego, she heard a lot about Minetto and our inclusive program, and was able to come over and visit a couple times. And she's so thrilled to be here, and she knows what a phenomenal program that we have here, and she's excited to be working here as a special education teacher. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Mrs. Fiera? What, did you think I was going to forget you, Maribel?
No, I was saying me.
We're going in order of height.
Yeah, we should. We go height and order. Height order. So then Scott would have to stand next to me. Well, before we get started, everyone in the audience who got tenure tonight, congratulations and welcome aboard to the Oswego City School District. And those of you that are new teachers to the district, welcome aboard. Happy to see so many familiar faces. Dean, Board of Education, thank you for making this possible. It's nice to recognize people. So I have 3 new teachers at the middle school this year, and we'll start with Christy Schrader, who is our new math AIS teacher. We call it math enrichment at the middle school. Christy is a 2005 graduate of Oswego High School and had a very good pre-calc honors teacher.
I never taught that, Maribel.
Wait, never taught
I
that?
never taught that.
You never taught pre-calc?
No.
You were the algebra teacher. Christy has a degree in childhood education, grades 1 through 6. She's working on her math extension in grades 5 through 9, and already has her master's degree in literacy education, birth to 6. She attended graduate school at SUNY Oswego from 2010 and earned her master's in 2012. Before coming to us at the Oswego Middle School, she substitute taught in both Fulton and the Oswego City School Districts, was a lead teacher at Little Luke's, and was responsible for writing all of the curriculum at Little Luke's. Most recently, she worked at the Oswego Police Department, which, when we were hiring her at the middle school, We thought that was a good thing, but we did think that was a good thing. But we did have a couple of police officers come to us and say they were very disappointed she was leaving because she did great bulletin boards for the police department. So welcome aboard, Christy. All right, so I asked Steve, oh, that's right, Christy, I wanted to say one other thing about you. You guys will like this. I asked them to tell us some of their interests. Christy is a Syracuse University basketball fan and a Yankees fan and a Cowboys fan. She likes to cook and eat, and she has 2 saltwater aquariums in her home. Christy. Now, Steve, Mr. Bradish, he is our new career and financial management teacher at the middle school, and I asked him to write his bio. It's a man of few words, and he sent me this. So this was Steve's brief bio. It's his 16th year of teaching. He has lived in Oswego most of his adult life, although he is a graduate of Mexico High School and a Mexico native. He lived and worked in the Adirondacks for 17 years. He's an Oswego State alumni, and then he asks me, anything else? And so I said, yes, include your interests. He's an avid whitewater enthusiast, a high school and college wrestler. He is currently helping out our varsity wrestling team, and he will be coaching our modified wrestling team this year. And also, he was recently trained on Vex Robotics at SUNY Oswego. Steve. And Scott Tabor is our new grade 7 and grade 8 science teacher at the middle school. And Scott went to SUNY Oswego for his undergrad as well as his grad school. He's a native of Cooperstown and has lived in Oswego for the past 7 years. Prior to coming to the middle school, he subbed in the Oswego City School District and was actually employed the last 3 years as a science teacher at the junior high in Watertown. He does work construction when he's not teaching. He enjoys running, painting, kayaking, and being outside when the temperatures are above freezing. Scott.
Thank you, Mary Beth. Mr. Wallace?
What's that Vex drawing, by the way? What's that Vex?
Good evening. Thank you for inviting all of us here today. First, I'm going to start with Casey Smith. Casey is a former teacher at the Oswego Middle School. She's happy to be back teaching in the district at her alma mater, serving as an English teacher. Casey graduated from the Oswego High School and has her undergraduate and graduate degrees from SUNY Oswego in adolescent education and literacy, respectively. She teaches 9th grade and 10th grade English. Casey Smith. Next, I'd like to introduce Kimberly Clements. Kimberly Clements is a special education teacher at the Oswego High School. She completed her undergraduate studies in childhood education with a concentration in mathematics at SUNY Oswego. She then went on to earn a Master's of Science in Education 1 in childhood education from Le Moyne College. Kim returned to Le Moyne and earned her Master's of Science in Education, dual adolescent and special education. Kim believes in developing the whole child and values the rapport that she develops with students. When she is not teaching, she is enjoying spending time with her son, who just started kindergarten in Baldwinsville, and she's planning her upcoming wedding. Kim. The next person I'd like to introduce is Anna Ayuba. Anna is a Rochester native by way of Illinois. She graduated from Nazareth College in 2011 with a degree in English literature before deciding to pursue her love of culinary arts at the French Culinary Institute in New York City. While there, she received a degree in the art of international bread baking and has worked with chefs with the likes of Ellen Ducasse and Bobby Flay. Annie teaches 10th, 11th grade English at the high school. The next person is Benjamin Hecklethorne. Benjamin Hecklethorne is a Oswego High School class of 2003 graduate. He graduated from Niagara University and was a teacher in North Carolina for the previous 9 years. Ben is really happy and excited to be back home teaching where his love for education began. Ben teaches 9th grade global studies at the high school. Ben Heichelberg. And then the next person is Chris Wood. Chris Wood graduated from Webster Schroeder High School in 2012 and graduated with a Bachelor's of Science in Technology Education from SUNY Oswego in 2016. Chris teaches design, drawing for production, principles of engineering, as well as photography. And he told me he loves every minute of it. Chris Wood. Then I have two teachers that couldn't be here today, but I'll read about them. First one is Mark Bankowski. Mark Bankowski graduated from Lemoyne College and holds a dual master's degree in adolescent education and natural sciences. He began teaching here in Oswego with the Buck program in 2012, and most recently taught in Madison Central School District for the past 3 years prior to returning to the Oswego schools. In addition to spending time with his family, his favorite activities outside the classroom are microbiology, attempting do-it-yourself projects, baseball, and cooking, and that's Mark. And the last person is Morgan Nandon. Morgan is at a basketball game right now, operating a shot clock. And she apologizes. Morgan graduated from CNS, went to Syracuse University and got her degree in physical education, and was also a member of the softball team. Morgan coached softball at Syracuse and Oswego State after graduating while working on her master's. Morgan is currently a member of the Colombian national softball team in South America, and they are working on towards qualifying for the 2020 Olympics. Morgan Nandon. Thank you for having us here.
Congratulations.
Principals, thank you very much. A few other quick announcements.
Congratulations. You're welcome. Thank you.
Oh, Amy's passing out her late. Y'all set, Anna? Just a few other things I wanted to point out before we move on to the regular agenda. The second episode of the Dane and Dean Show on WBUC is now uploaded to the website. Thanks to Mr. Bach. As you know, I reported a few weeks ago, actually more than a month ago, that we're moving from print media over to sharing information about the school district monthly to a televised segment at WBUC. Dane Richardson is the host, and he and I talk about different topics of interest to our community and to our taxpayers. This month's episode is about our district planning structure and our planning model, where we started with mission and visioning to educational planning, to literacy task force, to financial planning. So that's up and running today. So I wanted to point that out. It also airs on channel 16. The other thing is I wanted to point out and thank Deb Kasmer. Deb Kasmer is one of our Oswego High School physical education teachers. She's in the first course in a leadership program at SUNY Oswego. And Deb and her cohort from SUNY Oswego chose the Oswego City School District to do what's called the issue analysis study. I met with Deb and her entire issue analysis team several times. Other members of the leadership cabinet met with them. And Deb and her team presented last Wednesday evening at the Metro Center in Oswego on graduation rate and elements that impact graduation rate in Oswego. And they did a phenomenal job. So Deb is an up-and-coming leader in our district. I wanted to congratulate her. Carrie attended, and Pat Wallace was able to attend, and they really did an outstanding job. They're going to present their issue analysis at the Oswego High School to the faculty, and I may actually ask them to come back and do an abbreviated presentation for the board, because they really met with us. We shared a lot of comprehensive data, and they really dug in and confirmed a lot of the things that we already know about our graduation rate and made some pretty sound suggestions how we might continue to impact graduation rate. So I wanted to really point that out. I started my first monthly lunch this month with students of Oswego High School. I planted the seed with Pat several months ago, and I'm going to be meeting monthly with a group of 7 Oswego High School students, different cross-section of students from month to month. This month was freshmen. and we talked about the transition from Oswego Middle School to Oswego High School, their perceptions of the Oswego High School, things that they would change or things that they liked best about being Oswego High School freshmen. I'm going to continue to have lunch with a group of 7 Oswego High School students each month, and we're going to fix, kind of mix it up each month. I'm going to meet with freshmen, sophomore, juniors, seniors. We're going to do a cross-reference on certain topics. The board will remember that I did this last year at the Oswego Middle School and the Oswego High School. I went there and met with them about bullying, and they provide a lot of good feedback at the middle school and high school on bullying. So this is kind of a spin-off on that. They just love the fact that they come to central office and have pizza with the superintendent, and I get a lot of good information from them.
A lot of good pizza.
Do I look like a pizza fan?
Cool, good pizza eating.
And the last thing I wanted to point out that I mentioned earlier is that we really are kicking off the holiday concert season in our district. It's a great time of year where all of our student musicians across the district from all 7 schools have an opportunity to showcase the things that our teachers are working with them every day in our schools. Chorus, concerts, band and strings. And I wanted to point out that Seth generated a quick guide to the concert season, and that's available on our website. And it's the holiday schedule, so that you don't have to flip through the school district calendar. Good job, Seth. He did a really nice job, and that really is a quick and easy way to kind of reference what's going on each night. So thank you to Seth for that. Seth was doing a great job working with us, and I know City BOCES is really, really glad to have him. We're really glad to have him, and tonight we met his replacement, Pell Times, and welcome. Okay, Karen.
Next on the agenda is the floor to the public. At this time, no one has signed up for tonight, so we will move on to the consent agenda. First item is the special education report of November 21st, 2017, special education report December 5th, 2017, minutes of a regular Board of Education meeting of November 7th, Treasurer's Consolidated Report, Budget Status Report, District Financial Report, and Fund Balance Projection for October 2017, Budgetary Transfer Report, October 2017, Extra Classroom Activities Fund Report, Oswego Middle School, October 2017, Extra Classroom Activities Fund Report, Oswego High School, October 2017. If I could have a motion, please. Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next on the agenda is curriculum, and I will hand that over to Carrie Class.
Okay, A is a request for a new, oh, sorry. A is a
Can you hear her?
request, can you hear me?
Yeah, there you go.
Is a request for a new course at the high school, ELA elective, for the 2018-19 school year. The title is A Touch of Evil 2. It's a follow-up on a course that is already being offered at the high school, A Touch of Evil 1. It will be to read texts and examine evil nature of man. And they're asking that this course be approved.
Any discussion on that item? Could I have a motion?
Move it.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next, Carrie.
Okay, B is another new course proposal for the 2018-19 school year, an English course. It is Disney Debunked. They're going to look at different Disney stories and look at how Disney took fairy tales and changed them, and they're going to have discussion about how some of the elements of Disney, what they brought forth to us as viewers.
Any discussion?
I just had a kind of general discussion on both the, as being having been an English teacher at the high school, these are both interesting to me. I think that's a cool idea Gretchen came up with to do these two. I guess what I wanted to have a little conversation on, just to understand, like, how does that come about? Like, how is that decided when new courses, new electives can be offered? Like, is it done departmental-wise? Is it done based on, like student input? Like, how does that whole process happen to it coming before us for approval?
It is done through the teachers having an interest in teaching something, aligning it to the standards. It's done within the department. They have a conversation. Heidi, I don't know if you want to expound on that?
So usually, it will come kind of a shared interest between something students maybe have asked to see. It might lead off of, like her Touch of Evil, which is a half-year course.
Which I know is very popular.
Yeah, very popular. So the thought was develop a second half to it, and then it's a full-year credit-bearing course. And then they have a discussion in their department. There's a form that they complete that goes to the building administrator. There can be other discussions had about the logistics of it. And then eventually it ends up over at Carrie's office or my office. And then we do it at this time of the year mostly so that it can get into the program of studies, so that when the students are scheduling in the coming months, that's all in there. And it's very student-driven. I think there'll be a lot of interest for Gretchen's, but it could be that nobody signs up for it. You never know. And so then it's not offered, but it's always in the program of studies.
So it's not like, I'm just saying, I'm thinking like when I read through this, and then just thinking about like how do we make sure that each one of our schools is staying current and challenging and, with the times, like, is from the top down, is there like, do you guys say, we need to change things up or add a little more
Yes.
technology? Like, how does that
There's there's actually a couple ways that happens. We have administrative council, which is an opportunity for all administrators in the district to come together and their agenda items. But really where that starts is curriculum meetings. So the executive directors of both curriculum areas, secondary and elementary, meet with directors and principals regularly, and they talk about curriculum. The literacy task force is a great example. That's an initiative that was actually that I started. That was a desire that I had to continue our work around our long-range educational plan, because the data is telling us that we're not doing a good enough job with literacy in K-6. So we developed a literacy task force. It's a cross-section of teachers, intervention specialists, principals, directors and executive directors, and we're going to do a year-long study of not only our material framework, the things that we're using to teach our materials, but also the approach that we're using and what our literacy block looks like. So everyone kind of feeds in. So sometimes these things are prompted from the top, and sometimes they're stimulated from within.
And sometimes, such as math courses, we find that students need extra support. So a math course might be developed that could be a lead into another course. So we also look at the student ability and what we have.
So it's situational.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Thank you.
And so the next, if I could have a motion on that one, please?
Move it.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The next C is a request for a new course, a math elective, and it is an AP Computer Science Principles. Something similar was offered in the past with computer science. They're reviving the course to add more, to come up to date with what AP requires. So it has tweaked some of what was already presented in a class that was offered several years ago. I don't think it had been attended recently, or offered recently.
Year before last, I think I was.
So the same thing like what you were saying
Yes.
before, that it's always there, and then depending on how many students want to take it, then. Is there a certain number of kids that have to sign up for a class in order to make the class happen?
Yes, we kind of look for at least 10 or 12. Something with a smaller subset like the previous AP Computer Science course, and it's really dependent also on teacher availability. If we, maybe not in recent years when we were a little tight on our teachers, but in previous years, if we'd had a teacher who could afford an extra section of something and there was a smaller group of students who had signed up for it, we make that decision year to year based on need, sections of other courses that are being signed up with higher numbers.
That just made me think of something else. Is there ever an opportunity to teach kids like the class size thing made me think of it, but to provide opportunities where we would teach kids like in the high school level, like in a, what's the word I'm looking for, like in college when you have big,
Oh, like in a large.
yeah, like in a
Lecture hall.
large,
No, and the reason that we would, well, two reasons. One, that it's probably not the most educationally sound approach, but the other reason is that there are certain parameters within the teacher's contract in terms of total class load and total class size.
oh, so then that
That we
would go
try to
over.
strive
Oh,
for.
okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. All right, I was just thinking in
Yep.
terms of like preparing kids for going to college, if they had those opportunities to take a class in that type
To
of
see what it's
setting.
like to be in a room
Yeah.
with 200 students.
Well, not we would 200 to be on a much smaller, you know, but
Yeah.
just a thought.
Yep.
Could I have a motion?
Move it. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
K and D is the acceptance of the federal state grant for the Empire State After School Program. We received $2.8 million, but it is given out within the next 5 years at an amount of $566,400. And that will be to provide for after-school program that will run from 3:30 till 6:30 at two of our schools, site of Fitchie Park and of the site of Layton Elementary School, and it will provide some tutoring, it will provide some enrichment activities, also some yoga, mindfulness, different things are being offered for the students that attend.
So since it's at those two schools, does that mean it's only students from those schools? So it wouldn't be busing kids from another school, it would just be those two schools?
It would, what we wrote in the grant was that if we don't get the numbers, we're budgeted for 110 students at each site, 220 total. If we don't get the numbers, we did write in busing for students come from Riley over to Fitchie Park.
Okay.
We focused on the title schools.
Okay.
Motion, please.
Move it.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Great program. Who put that together? Who went and got it?
It was a team of Bob Duffy worked with Laura Payne Borsey, a grant writer called the Red Group, and myself. The three of us got together, and Bob's still here, and
Yep.
kind of laid out what it was going to look like.
Yeah, great job.
There's a lot of talk around the state about this funding, and I'll tell you, there's an awful lot of communities that wish they had it, so it's, it's really,
Big deal.
yeah, it's very, very big deal.
Next will be personnel with Heidi. Please.
A leave of absence extension for Abigail Molinary. She's currently on an unpaid leave. This is an extension of a maternity leave. She expects to return to us just before Christmas break.
Any questions? Could I have a motion, please?
Move it.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
B, professional staff recommendations. Katrina Levens, a teaching assistant here at Minetto. She is level 1. This is for a recent student IEP change.
Any questions? Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
C, professional staff recommendations. Linda Murdoch, who is a teaching assistant at Layton School. This is, comes to us because of the new OCTA language regarding regular teaching assistant substitutes. And Melissa Westfall, who is a teacher here at Minetto, a regular sub. She is a replacement, and she was approved as a per diem sub, and that's why you see the back date to November 7th. That's truly when she took over as a regular substitute teacher.
Any discussion? Motion? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
D, extra compensatory positions for Fitchie Park School. These are after-school support and homework out of a title grant, and they are on an as-needed basis.
Any discussion? Motion? Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
E, extra compensatory position for the Oswego High School. The Interact Club is an extension of the Rotary Club here in town. During our club discussions over the summer, Interact was not one that we had previously funded, and Rotary was kind enough to come forward another year with a donation for the club. And our Matt Bach applied and is being brought forward as the advisor.
Any discussion? Motion?
Move it. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
F, extra compensatory position at the Oswego High School. These are two musical drama-related positions, the choreographer and the costume designer.
Any discussion? Motion?
Oh, wait, I just had a quick question. So is that just, and I think I read it in the backup, so that's like, those are just positions that every year
Yes.
they get filled by a different person or maybe the same
Well,
person?
they're-
Or
typically it's the same person, at least has been recently, but yes, we bring them forward every year.
Motion?
Move it.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
G, extra compensatory recommendation for the Oswego Middle School. If you recall, at our last meeting, there was a resignation from Rory Malone. He's working on his administrative degree. And so this is just moving Elisa Davis forward as the sole person for this school year. And there's an asterisk there, just to clarify, her title is one in the new contract language that we're finalizing. Thank you. And so tentatively, she's the student council / student activities, but it hasn't changed. It's still the same role.
It used to be called assistant to the principal for student activities. And in collective bargaining, we requested that the title be changed because it was suggestive that it was an administrative position. And it was agreed upon. We just haven't penned the final. It'll look something like that. Student activities director or something.
Any discussion? Motion?
Move it.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
H, extracurricular volunteer recommendations. Also at our last meeting, this was a discussion that we move the volunteers to a separate section so that it's clear to everybody. And so this meeting, we do have one wrestling varsity volunteer, Adam Davis.
Any discussion? Motion? Second? I'm sorry, second.
Second.
Jim. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I, a support staff retirement with Mary Ann Petty, and Karen will read us the resolution.
Whereas Mary Ann Petty has served the students and staff of the school district for the period September 19, 1997 to the present and has been the most responsible, conscientious, and dedicated staff member in service to the school district. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the members of the Board of Education of the Oswego City School District hereby acknowledge the faithful service of Ms. Petty upon accepting her resignation for the purpose of retirement from the position of cook effective December 30th, 2017, and we express our grateful appreciation to her. If I could have a motion?
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
J, support staff recommendations, leave of absence. James Ferguson is a custodian who's taking a leave of absence from his custodial worker position. So he's serving in a second title. And Diane Mitchelson, who is taking a leave of absence currently through February.
Any discussion? Motion?
Move it. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
K, support staff recommendations, probationary. Jean Cavalier is a cook replacement for Layton School. She's coming to us as a food service helper from the middle school. Thomas Gunn is our transportation supervisor. This is on here this month because we did receive notification from City Hall that he's not required to test again for his position. And then Travis Bibbins, Tyler Broadwell, James Ferguson, and Sarah Schultz. All recently scored high enough in their civil service exam to keep their probationary positions as custodians.
Any questions? Motion? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
L, support staff recommendations, provisional. Beverly DeLong, a senior account clerk typist at the Ed Center. She is Jody Smith's replacement for her coming retirement. Teresa Dowdle, who is currently an account clerk typist at the Ed Center for Nancy and me. She splits her time a little bit. But she's going to be moving over to the warehouse to replace Sharon McCoy, who's also retiring. And Ian Roberry for the senior maintenance worker at the warehouse, who is Greg Gear's replacement.
Any discussion? Motion?
Move it. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
M, support staff recommendations, permanent appointment for Diana Davis, a food service helper at Kingsford Park School. She just finished her probationary period.
Any questions? Motion?
Move it.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And N, our substitute and temporary employees, our usual round of tutors and substitute teachers, tutors and bus attendants.
Discussion? Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next on the agenda is finance with Nancy Squires.
We have two budget transfers. One is in the amount of $1,910 from equipment repair to tech ed equipment, and that is to cover the cost of a wireless video receiver transmitter, and that is at the high school. The second budget transfer is $150,000 from our debt service TAN account to our special education account, student with disabilities program account. And that is because a student, after the budget was finalized last year, was placed in a high-cost residential home.
Any discussion?
Question. The 150,000 is what caught my eye, Nancy.
Mhm.
Can you talk a little bit about how this happens and why it happens? I know we can't talk about the student, and I don't want to, but
You want to talk about the debt service TAN?
yes.
Okay. So, in our debt service account, we always budget $150,000 for a TAN. A TAN is a tax anticipation note, and it's always put there in case our taxes don't come in as expected, so that we don't have a cash flow problem. So that's why this account is in there. And, we can't go and anticipate when students, special education students, are placed per their IEPs or sometimes parentally placed into these residential units, and we don't want to pad the budget that much. This was just an unforeseen situation that came in May of this last year.
So is this placement a permanent thing, or is it,
I would think it is a permanent, it's a permanent situation.
So
Student
next year
with,
we'll have to
with
build that
severe
150,000
special
into
needs. I would expect this to continue,
Until the child
ages out.
ages out?
completes.
How many of these students do we have in this situation?
Right now, I believe this is the only one.
Lisa, you want to?
In terms of students in our residential program,
Yes.
I can pull the data for you, it's less than 5. But I believe there's a few students that might be placed in your school, the blind or the deaf, and the registration.
UCP,
Do we get any state aid back on?
We staff these students, so we do
Can
get
you
money
explain
back.
what that is? Because we use the term stack, but they probably don't know.
Lisa?
Stack, can you talk about stack, Lisa?
So for students that are high cost, we work with DC OCSD to file paperwork through the state to allow us to be reimbursed for part of the cost for those placements for students. And so we get some of that money back for our students that are placed in high-cost placements specifically.
Student is a percentage, and how is the percentage?
The percentage is based on the state formula. Nancy, I'm going to turn to you for that portion.
Yeah, it's based on the state formula and the number of services that each student has. So, and their needs. So it could be, we could receive anywhere from 60 to 80% back on a high-cost needs student, based on formula from the state.
One other question, then I'll shut up. With state aid, we've got it coming. They're gonna give us money back on these students. Does that come the following year, or when does that come? Or does it come in increments, or does it come as one lump sum?
That, I'm gonna have to get back to you, Sam.
And that would be important as we build our budget for next year.
Let me check to see how that comes in. I'm not sure if I don't believe it follows, because if we stack this year, we usually get the money this year, but let me confirm that, and I'll put it out in transmittal to the
Okay, appreciate that.
So if we're anticipating this being a long-term, an event, do we plan on budgeting for that?
Absolutely. If we know about it, then we budget for it.
Yeah, once we have a child in our program, in a particular program that's a high-cost program, then they're easy to budget for.
Right.
But once in a while, we get a student that might move into our district that already might have a similar placement, or after exhausting the least restrictive for many, many, many years, the parent may have a change of heart, or the CSE may have a change of heart, or the child might come to an age or size where they become less. There's a whole variety of things that could happen. And although we do pad the special education budget because special education residential placements are so high, sometimes you're surprised by one. This is one of them.
Does the $150,000, is that to cover all of our students with these particular disabilities?
It's
not
to
just-
supplement it. We did budget for residential placements, but it wasn't enough.
We didn't have, yeah. And this 150, does this just get us to the end of the year?
This should get us through the end of the year. This one student is about $90,000 just for one student.
And then the difference was what wasn't budgeted enough.
Correct.
Right,
For the other ones who we already knew were.
Correct.
And the child can stay in the program until they're 21 years old.
Motion, please.
Second.
Depends on how severe the disability it is. Which is one of the reasons we try to integrate the least restrictive as much as we can, because we can get them to graduation. With the specified. No, I'm sorry. Amy asked if this was typical, and my response was that that's why we try to fully integrate as many of our students as we can, because we have more control over when we get them to graduation. Once they come outside of our environment or philosophy, then we have less control. The more the more intense the disability, the harder it is, of course, to get them to graduation, and the higher the frequency that a family may choose to go to a residential or alternative placement. Every time they leave our facilities, they become more and more expensive. But no placement can be made without the approval of the parent.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
B is a memorandum of agreement with Huger Community College. This is for students that could receive college credits for courses taught in a secondary school setting, and it's for high school students for our TV production program at no cost to the district.
This is one of the pathways that Jamie worked on. So this is a collaboration between WBUC and Huger.
We also added OHS Inc. to it as well this year as another addition from last year.
Yep, thank you.
Any discussion? Motion?
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
C is a contract with Educational Learning Corp. This is for mentoring services for professional development, 1 hour sessions for 4 1 hour individual sessions and 8 circle sessions, 90 minutes each, not to exceed $1,500. And this is paid for from our Title IIA grant, and this is for Pat Wallace to be mentored through a program through St.
Any discussion?
I might want to clarify that we're not mentoring Pat Wallace because we're worried about him. I am a little worried about him some days. We make an effort to mentor all of our probationary administrators, either in-house or outside. It just happens to be that Pat already had some mentoring in his previous position with the University of Rochester, which is outstanding. And this is another opportunity to continue his mentoring as a brand new high school principal in a much larger organization through the State Association of Administrators of New York State. And they contract with Ed Learning Corp to provide mentoring. So it's both one-on-one and small group collaborative mentoring that he can do off-site.
Could I have a motion, please?
Move it.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
D is a contract with East Syracuse Minoa Central School District to provide health services for Oswego students that are attending Bishop Grimes Junior Senior High School at a cost not to exceed $3,798.27. And this is paid out of our contractual account.
Any discussion? Motion?
Move it.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
E is for the board to accept a donation from Crafties for a buck neon sign valued at $150 and 200 loose leaf notebooks valued at $400.
Any discussion?
Was it, that's really nice that Patrick's doing that. Is this for something specific or going somewhere? Did someone ask for it, or did he just decide that?
No, I
How did that
believe
happen?
that they had this as part of their inventory that they were holding,
Oh, okay.
and they decided to donate it to the school.
Yeah, Crafties is getting out of selling Buck logo clothing and paraphernalia.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So they donated a bunch of things. I bought a bunch of things. That's why everybody gets those nice ties. I have plenty of them. Patrick?
Patrick's daughter came in and told me that her father wanted to donate, so I called him, and he has this neon buck sign that will look great in the district office, and he has some notebooks that'll be great for the students, and he's more than happy to donate.
Could I have a motion, please?
Move it.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And F is for the maintenance contracts for the year. One is Chemaqua, that's for our water treatment, Ehrlich Pest Control, for our extermination services, Jerome Fire Equipment for our fire extinguishers, National Elevator for our elevator inspections, 10 Power Systems for our generators, Simplex Grinnell. They do our fire alarms and sprinkler inspections, Thermomechanical, which does our pool inspections, U.S. Material Handling, which maintains our forklifts, and Siemens Industries, which does our energy performance.
Any questions?
Yeah, Nancy, how many years do we have left in that energy performance?
I would say 2.
Gotta be close to being
It's
done.
almost done.
Have we, I haven't checked in the years past, but has that been showing a reduction each year? Like this year, we're down 8,000 or about 7,000?
The amount, yes.
Yeah, so if we got 2 more years, it should even go down more.
It should. They looked at it, we got a huge reduction on the energy performance contract through Siemens, because when we redid all of the controls on the boilers for some of our schools, they didn't have to look at it as closely as they had
They were there
15 years
controls.
prior. So we actually got a large reduction, I believe it was 2 years ago.
Thank you.
Motion, please.
Move it. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next on the agenda is items from board members.
I just have one thing. I want to congratulate and thank Dean and the administrative staff for introducing, bringing the new teachers and new staff on board. That's a great idea. And what I really like is to see a number of students that are coming back to Oswego, that graduated through our system, went to Oswego State or elsewhere, and came back here. That's impressive, and that's how we're going to build community moving forward, is to get these kids to come back home and work in our system. So thank you all, everybody that's involved. That's a great thing.
Thanks very much.
Any other items tonight?
Anybody else? I have a couple things. I wanted to, I gotta read my notes here. If we just switched over, just kind of turn this into a discussion amongst us here. We just switched over our committee meetings to the way that they were, and I know I had some people who were concerned with how it was, so I just thought instead of going back and forth with, emails and phone calls and whatever, that if we just kind of, everybody said how they feel or don't feel about it. I guess my proposal, just hearing what other people have said, would be, could we consider moving our committee meetings to either a 5 o'clock time so that those people who are working don't have to take time out of their work schedule, or maybe even do it at lunch? Or, I don't know, I'm just throwing out there what I hear, my feedback, and I mean, obviously, we're a group of 7, plus Dean and you guys, so I mean.
So are you
What-
talking about
The
feedback about
pre-committee.
when
how
we meet?
Yes.
Like the time is
Because we
bad?
switched from the last Tuesday of every month, and then we switched to the Friday before the
Friday.
board meeting.
I gotcha.
But it's still in the morning, so it still is conflicting for people who work. So I'm just saying, like, what do we think? What's everybody comfortable with doing?
Yeah.
What works, I guess, for the majority?
What time would everybody be for, would it be 3 or 4 o'clock or?
For me, I'm typically free at 4 o'clock.
Or lunch?
So,
I mean, would a lunch be, or no? Would you
Just
guys
today,
rather?
today we had facilities from 11 to 12, I went back to work, got a couple hours in, and then, had a couple different things. I got to get back here at 4:30. So, I mean, sometimes it's a scramble,
Right.
but.
I'm just thinking about not only just this board, but also boards going forward, and to make it easier for people who are working to be able to give their time and serve in a position like this, so.
If it's not troubling anybody at this point, though, I think about Dean and the administrators who put in a very, very long day, and we're asking them with their families and children to stay again from 5 through all, which we pick up sometimes 5, an hour and a half.
Well, the committee system, is supposed to be rapid. The committee meetings are quick.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed, I mean, the central administration isn't opposed to meeting whenever is the best time for the majority of the board. However, I'm sensitive to the fact that not all of our central administrators are local. So I wouldn't want to start having committee meetings at 6 o'clock, when,
Or even 5 o'clock.
not that Nancy's not working a lot of nights till 6 o'clock, but if the end of the afternoon was better than morning, it doesn't much matter to me, but I think that we're really talking about the working board members.
Right.
To have to take the.
Yeah.
I mean, for me,
For 4 out of the 7, it probably doesn't matter, but for 3 of you, it does.
For me, typically I can show up around 11. I can be here from 11 to 12 if I need to be. It's typically a lunchtime for me.
So 11 is better for you, Brandon, than
Yes,
9:30.
or after obviously 4 o'clock. So my concern with it is we shifted the committees around. I was on 2 of the committees at one point. It's been shifted around, so it's a 15-minute meeting. Supposed to be a 15-minute meeting. So it's quite a bit to just leave and come down for 15 minutes and turn around and go back home or go back to work.
And that was the other thing I was gonna say
Yeah.
too, that I know that we switched, because you and I always meet the Friday before a board meeting. So this was kind of combining the two, which is why I got put on every single committee,
Right.
which I'm totally fine with going back to where you all were before, on the committees everybody was on, because I know a lot of people were, and then, I mean, you and I can just meet one-on-one, I mean, it doesn't
But I
need to
think
be.
you were trying to
I thought, right.
minimize the meeting.
No, the attempt was to
But
give
that's
more
only affecting
people
me
an
and him, not
opportunity.
anybody
Well,
else.
and I think that's what he's trying to do, is to not have so many meetings with the job he has.
Well, eliminating meetings for me wasn't the main objective. The main objective was to be more, to do a better job in these meetings,
Right.
in which I think we've accomplished that by having executive directors presenting. The other piece was, yeah, if I'm gonna have an agenda review, what was happening is we were doing pre-committee meetings on a Tuesday, and then Amy and I would meet on Friday and go over the same things.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
And it made more sense which.
You gotta eliminate one of the meetings.
We talked about that, and I thought that by putting Amy on all the board-based committees, the
Right.
three board-based, because those are the three important, every board member now is on 2 committees. Every board member now is on 1 board meeting-based committee. So it's completely equitable, except Amy's on 1 additional meeting. That's the only change. Everyone is on either personnel, curriculum, or finance, plus 1 additional. But in order to have more efficient use of time and to have people circle through the 3 committees and not repeat that again 3 days later, for us, it seemed like a logical solution. Is anyone else concerned about the change that we made? I don't want to roll it back.
I think I've already expressed my concern with being pulled off personnel. And I had a vested interest in it. There's some things during my goals and objectives that fell right into the personnel meetings, and now that I'm out of that. So now I don't have a problem not being within that committee. I can bring up my concerns during my board time here if that's what we choose, but I chose to kind of have that discussion during our meetings. So now that I don't have that, that's going to be my avenue if I'm not involved there.
I mean, I think in
Well,
all.
excuse
Go ahead,
me,
Linda.
but I also, you have to know that that's what you have board that. As you see concerns that may, or questions you may have, you can ask those questions at any time, any day via texting, or not texting, but
Email.
emailing.
Or phone call.
And clear it up before. Personnel, you really wouldn't wanna. you have
In
to
all
be really-
fairness, there are 3 really high-demand committees out that are board-based committees. Everybody wants to be on all of them. I mean, I would argue probably that personnel and finance are the 2 committees everybody wants to be on. And Brandon happened to be on both of those committees. Jim had to stop off finance, and I know he loved being on the finance committee in order to restructure.
Yeah, I mean,
And it was really a give and take, but I was trying to provide equity where every board member had 2 committees, and every board member had 1 board meeting-based committee. Doesn't matter to me who's on which committee.
What are you on?
I can switch with you, if you want to go on.
Right now, I went on policy, which from what I understand, doesn't meet, but only
I'll
maybe
tell
2
you
or 3
what,
times
you
a year.
can take mine on personnel and I'll go on policy.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, you can do the same thing. I'll go
We
on
need to
policy.
have 1, I want to have 1 board member on every board meeting-based committee. That was the whole point of creating this equity that we have right
Okay,
now.
all right.
If we start, I mean, I think it historically has, changed each year. The
Yeah,
committees
it
have
does change each year, right.
So if you're not on, if you're on personnel this year, maybe next year you'll be on finance. If you're on curriculum, you might be on policy. At least that's been my experience.
I'm not even sure what the benefit of those committee meetings is.
The pre-committee.
Pre-committee meetings. I really don't understand the benefit, because we come here, and
the
we
same
got this
thing all
process
the
that we're going through. There's the opportunity for the entire board to ask any questions they want to ask.
Which
It
is
may
why we
make-
moved to this format with
It may
these guys
make
rolling
them-
everything out. So if Karen reads a resolution, it makes sense to
Do
hear.
away
from
with the pre-committee meetings, it may lengthen this meeting a little bit, but I think that
And
everything
if
will
you
move
have
along
any
just
like
as smoothly.
touchy questions, it should be done there.
Yeah, the only thing I ask as the superintendent, and I know that the executive directors certainly appreciate, and it's the same courtesy we'd extend to the board, is you don't surprise us at the board table. We don't surprise you, you don't surprise us, you don't put an administrator on the spot. Our phone calls and inboxes are always open. The only thing that I would ask as the executive of the district is if you ask a question of an executive director, that I'm copied in. But you're free to have an open dialogue with Carrie, Nancy, and Heidi anytime, any day. I mean, obviously you can't dial me in on a phone call, but if you had a question and wanted to have a conversation about a finance matter with Nancy, just run it by me and say, hey, Dean, I'm going to call Nancy because I want to hear about the, the budget transfers this week. And I'm going, great, I'll let her know you're going to call.
Is there any policy that requires the committee meeting to have a physical meeting?
No.
No.
Well, then why?
We moved
why
to
not
committee.
send it out through
We
board
did that
docs?
a number of years ago to try to minimize keep blindsiding people.
I get it. I get its intent, for sure. Well, I mean, we could still use that same practice through our board docs to send out
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
on those days.
We've become far more current with the use of board docs that I think that maybe as Stan pointed out, maybe the use of pre-committees is a little antiquated considering these are live living documents that change all the time and that you always have access from any device or computer at your desk, at work, on your phone.
And then we're not duplicating conversations,
Right.
because
Right.
we're all here. I mean, just like you and I talked about, having a more conversational, less formal board meeting where we're talking rather than
Right.
just going through a list of things.
Right.
That now, if we had a question, you can do it through board docs.
It-
And then when we come here,
Now
we
you're
all are talking rather than
Exactly.
three people, and then now two
Exactly.
people are asking
Well,
questions.
That's why I wonder, is there even a design or a policy that states that you have to take 3 people and put them into a committee for finance, for personnel, for policy? No, right?
There's a
So
format that
all the
Dave White
information
brought
can
in.
go out to all 7 of us every single time.
Just copied out of the Syracuse School District.
Dave White brought it in.
Yeah.
from Sarah.
If there's
So-
anything critical or urgent that's popping up on board docs, we would send an email that said, alert,
Yeah, let's-
something you might want to check out on board docs,
Right.
something that's newer that we hadn't talked about previously or that we think there might be, somebody might want to follow up with,
Right,
a
right.
call or an email.
Well, then it allows everybody to have information
Yeah.
to each of, it's not, oh, I'm on finance. Well, everybody's on finance, everybody's on curriculum, everybody's on personnel, everybody's facilities, all the information is, right?
If we do it here, it's a board meeting, otherwise you can only have 3 board members and the committee.
Right.
You can't have 4.
Right.
That's the one
Like-
rule
right,
that's
exactly.
blocked.
Like tonight, we had a lot of really good questions that only, from people who weren't on a particular committee of things we talked about on Friday with 3 people.
Right.
So,
So it's not, it's, yeah.
So
it's
we're not
eliminating
we're not getting that information back.
Yeah.
right,
So those
But if-
questions aren't being asked here anyway.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
but that was designed, the committees were designed with the 3 people in order to push the information out, and then they can go talk to 2 and 2, and everybody gets it out, but you don't need to do that. You don't-
And we already
Yeah,
saw
but
that
even when
the
you
whole
do
three-
that, Jim, when you go, I'm on a committee and I get some information, I go talk to you. Well, then you might have another question.
Right.
Now, where's my opportunity?
Yeah, you to
find
go to
it?
somebody
Yeah.
else, right.
So I think it's better off, better
Yeah.
served.
So we're gonna do away with pre-committee meetings. We don't have a committee and regular
Yeah,
meetings
try it.
anyways anymore. Every meeting's the same now. We present from the department.
There
We
is
have a
one committee that is mandated, and that is the audit committee.
Yeah.
You have to have that.
Well, in our non-board-based meeting committees, we won't pre-committee on. We obviously are gonna continue to have a facilities committee, we have our audit committee, and I would ask that we still have a policy committee, because Karen and I are starting a complete policy review, starting in policy 1. So we're gonna be reviewing 5 policies a week.
I think that we meet.
Now you're gonna be sorry, really sorry you're on that.
Who else is on that committee with me?
We're gonna, you're off it, man. You're not on it anymore.
Well, no, now if we're doing away with all this stuff, I'm back on it.
Well, you can be on it. People gotta decide which one they wanna be on now.
I want to be on.
She can take my
policy. But I want to meet more regularly. I don't want to meet once a year. so.
No, we're gonna meet, every time we get update alerts from Area 1, we're gonna bring the policy committee together. But in addition to that, every time I review up, say 10, 15 policies, we'll pull policy committee together, so you can review
Right.
them too. The way it's gonna work is I'm gonna review them, say 5 policies. Karen's gonna review them. We're gonna send them out to the principals or directors or executive directors that they apply to, or department heads, if it's transportation or food service. They're gonna provide their feedback. Then we'll pull the policy committee together and say, this is the feedback that we've been given. This policy was reviewed in 2012. This is what we'd like to see, and then move forward. And then when we bring the policy for the different readings to the board, the policy committee will have seen them.
I would appreciate one of the policies you review is the wellness policy, because
Yes.
the committee spent a lot of time last
Yep.
year developing
It's on my
that
desk
policy.
right now.
And, you know,
And some Erie 1
And
recommendations
I know there's
as
been
well.
other ones that have come up, like there was one, what was the one you brought up last year, like on naming rights or policy that needs to be looked at? There was that one. And don't we have to look at the one for Facebook?
Yes,
In order to.
that's one of the other ones that we have to review now, because there are some limitations to how we're rolling out Facebook.
Right,
Because
is
there's-
that why you can't, we can't have pictures on there, it's so
Yes.
much text?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
That's what I thought, I was like, what the heck?
Regular board policy
Because
says
of the-
can't upload pictures. I was gonna say, it's more about policy for the protection of
Of the
student or
right.
teacher or whatever,
Yeah.
not so much about capacity or the.
It's not
No,
about
no,
Facebook,
yeah,
it's
it's
about
just the
any
policy on
media,
it.
social
Any
media.
social media, so we
Yeah.
need to look, get that one on the top of the, so we can get the Facebook.
Yes.
Looking, you
Yep.
know, good. So that was another thing I was gonna bring up. So
And
we
that's
still
assuming that
two
Erie
months
1 in legal recommends that we change that policy. There may be policies that we'd love to change, but Erie 1, who we contract to advise us based on the current practice and what the industry standard might be, is saying, don't touch that policy. We had that issue come up recently, remember, about a policy that we reviewed?
Yeah. Yeah.
Around personnel matter.
Yeah, exactly.
And the board decided, and it was advised to us, you really shouldn't change that
Shouldn't mess
policy.
with it.
Even if you want to, don't.
Well,
Okay.
they allowed us some change.
Okay, now I just had two other things. So my other thing was, and I know we've all talked about this, but then we haven't closed the gap on this, but having, look at the sports schedules of those of us who have
Oh, yeah.
kids or grandkids in sports and conflicting with our board, like I'm missing a modified volleyball game tonight, that's home. You know, home games are the ones that I'm like, I don't get to go to the away ones, and I can't get back this time with my kids, so if we can maybe move, and I know Brian and Linda, there's a JV basketball home game February 6th.
There's also the next meeting.
During a meeting time. So even if it's like a half hour, what can we all agree upon, like if it's maybe a shift of a little bit or I mean, I don't know if you guys.
I'm accommodating.
Just make a time and send it out.
Yeah.
and
See
invite.
Why don't we do this? If a board member has a conflict with a particular meeting, why don't you send that information to Karen, and then she'll survey the board and say, how can we resolve, and take it on a case by case.
Much like we did with the
Yeah.
around the Thanksgiving.
Yep.
Yes.
meeting, that's fine.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Do the same thing, I mean, it'd just be specific to the conflict. Would it be a half hour late in the beginning, or would you have to leave a half hour early? Do you think you could be there for this
Well,
part?
like for example, there's a home volleyball game, the next meeting, which is on the 19th, but that starts at 4:30. So I'm like, the meeting started at 5:30, you know what I mean? Like
If we start a half an hour later.
Half hour.
Dad, your public gets confused.
Yeah.
You know, I just, wow.
Well-
You've never had to,
I would say.
The way we
voice-
resolved it
voice-
before was we moved the date.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Just change the
When
day.
but when you think about it,
but you have a variety of people with a variety
But
of.
that was for varsity sports.
at the end of the day,
What's it
well,
matter
whether
if
it's
it's first
varsity
finger?
or it's modified, what are you supporting? You're supporting what we're doing. It's the Buccaneers you're supporting, in my opinion. Yes, as a parent, yes, as a child advocate, that, you know, if somebody wants to question me, to say, hey, is it missing, or can we change something, because I want to go support Oswego High School?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be upset.
I mean,
No, and that's where I think we can be accommodated.
and that goes for anything. I mean, that could be the March of Flex, doesn't
Right,
have to
could
be
be a
sports.
concert,
I mean,
it could be anything.
tonight, the
I just
music
feel like
concerts.
we're all.
That's what I mean,
It can
there's
happen.
so many things that,
It could.
because I'm a grandmother. Let's say I've got 5 grandchildren.
You are, I didn't think you were old
I know,
enough.
I've got 5. And let's say I've got 5 grandchildren. I may ask you every month to do something because I got kids that are in sports and musicals, and I just think we're opening up a can of worms.
So do I.
But when you say you're asking,
Accepting a
it doesn't,
responsibility coming on board.
you know, like you could just not come. and you-
Exactly, you're right, that's.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
I
if
mean,
it affects three
Brian's
people,
system,
if it affects three people, you know, like I said, just say for
Yeah,
example,
if it
if
was
the three
like-
of us, like, all of a sudden, like, we really wanna go to the kids'
To the
game.
basketball.
Right, but
Then
all of a sudden,
maybe
it
we
just,
could ask them.
it's like at the soccer game last month when my daughter had something, I didn't expect anything to change, it just said, yeah, leave it at. So it's fine, you know,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, I agree with that.
I'm not sure how to do it.
Well,
but-
maybe if there's two or more board members that have the same conflict, that we look for a solution. But if there's an individual board member that needs to be late for a meeting or miss a meeting for with a child-centered reason,
Yeah,
I
I
say
don't think
go to
we-
your
I
kids'
don't think we
game.
need to make a policy for it.
No,
We just
no,
need
no.
to talk about it and deal with it.
Right.
We can do that.
It's like how Karen did with the
Just
paint.
we're grown,
Put it out, if
right?
people wanna do something, do it, if all of a sudden, I put something out there, and you guys all look at me like, no, then, okay, that's it, I gotta make
Right.
sense, I go,
Yeah.
Now, if it's the first meeting of the month, we start with, in a school with a tour. Now, we decided to start the tours earlier because we thought it was better for everybody. But maybe if we didn't do that, and if, like, for example, if Amy had a 4:30 game and it was a school-based meeting, if we started at 5 with a tour, you would miss almost nothing.
Right.
Well, here.
We can problem
today,
solve it.
Tonight was a perfect example. Brandon couldn't get here until 5 to do it.
Yeah.
I was about
No
10
biggie.
minutes late, right?
Right.
So, but everybody else was here. That's fine. I caught up. That's all. I missed a couple of comments, and I'm sure somebody would fill me in if they said the.
We have four.
There's certainly no judgment if a board member is late for a meeting or misses a meeting because they're watching their kid.
I know.
No judgment.
I wouldn't- I don't know.
Key word is volunteers.
Right?
Nobody's being paid to be here.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a joy.
It is, I enjoy it.
Okay. So I think that's a good idea, if it's two or more or whatever, whatever. But I think like Jim's
Just
saying,
communicate
just
it.
deal with it on a
Communicate.
case by case. But I wanted to kind of close the loop on that, because I know we've bounced that idea around since the beginning of this year, or even last year too, so and we just
Yep.
never really kind of closed the loop. And then the last thing that I wanted to, I guess, an idea that I had, kind of going along with something I said earlier about trying to, I don't know, because sometimes I think, well, we all know here, emails can, 10 different people can read an email 10 different ways. And I just don't think that it's the best form of communication. And I mean, I would say that it should go district-wide. Anytime there's new information going from one person to the other, I think it's always best to talk face-to-face or to pick up the phone or whatever. I mean, I just think that in this age of technology, I think, you know, we expect our kids to be able to look us in the eye when they talk and to be able to hold a conversation. But yet, I think a lot of times with us for convenience, you know, and time saving, people email, and I think emails often get misconstrued and the message gets missed. So, kind of going along with that, what I was thinking, and I've seen in other school districts, like in their agenda, they have an area for like new business and old business. And I just thought, well, wanted to hear what you guys thought about it. I personally thought it was a good opportunity for, like, say Brian had something that maybe it was one of the reports from, you know, an administrator that he wanted to see, or just something that he had a question about, that he could raise it in the section of the agenda that said new ideas, not to catch anybody off guard. You didn't know one would have to answer the question at that meeting, but it would give you the 2 weeks to come up with whatever it was that you needed to give us or present, or whether it was, but rather than asking things or questioning things through email, which for me does not work.
That's what we're doing now. That's what items from the board is for.
But
We don't need new and old business.
But I think
You got
that what would
something to bring
happen
up,
is the
bring
new
it
and the
up.
old business would force us to close the loop. So that it's like, okay, you know, Heidi has one question, Carrie has 2 questions. It's like, then you get to the old business, and they could say, I'd like to talk about the question that so-and-so brought up. And it's closure. It's closing the loop. So it's not like something gets, you know, and I think we can all say here that sometimes we get busy. And so then maybe a week goes by, 2 weeks goes by, a month goes by, it's like, oh, I never got the answer to, you know, whatever, or I still have another question about it. So I don't know, I've seen it in almost every other school board agenda, and I just, obviously, I don't know.
what everybody else thinks. But I just think it's an opportunity to encourage people to talk and feel safe to bring something up rather than, is now the time I'm supposed to talk? Is now okay to ask a question? I just feel like there's a lot of apprehension, so.
I think from my perspective, we've changed the format of our board agenda significantly this year. We're moving in a direction that's more transparent. We're moving in a direction where the expert administrator who's in charge of a particular department is presenting the agenda. And we're also, I was hoping that we were moving to a place where board members could have dialogue through phone call, a pop-in visit, an email to an executive director or a director anytime. And I would hope that their response would be quick. And if there was an opportunity or a need for follow-up, it would just happen. I'm not sure that we need to create another section of the agenda for that kind of dialogue that I think should happen every day. I would hope would happen every day. If someone has a question, you email, you call.
I've never, in all the years I've been on the board, I've never felt that I couldn't go to an administrator and ask a question.
Right.
Any time of day, a lot of times you might want to make an appointment to make sure they're free, but I'll just pop in and ask them. Everyone has always been more than accommodating to me, so.
Oh, I'm not saying people aren't accommodating. I'm saying that maybe there's a question that I have that somebody else has too. So by me going and asking Nancy a question, maybe Jim had the same question, but he didn't ask her. Or maybe he asked her a month later. It's like, why wouldn't we just ask the questions here? You all have 2 weeks to get it together, and then everybody hears the answer, and we're not, everybody's making appointments or making phone calls or emails. I'm just trying to, seems like it's more streamlined if we all have we're all here. We're all sitting here. So to me, that just makes sense, but.
I think the committee meeting attempted to do that. The committee meetings attempted to give us the opportunity to have discussion prior or ask questions. I don't know.
But what if there was like something like different? Like say for example, like if like one of the things I brought it up in another meeting, that I said, it'd be nice to get a review of the code of conduct, just so we could go over it, see expectations, blah, 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 blah. So that is something that would be considered in new news. Like, okay, could we arrange for, next month or 2 months or whenever, could somebody put that in there? Or could we get a list of all the class sizes across the district that are current?
So in my world of meetings, right?
We got that
which
this
I've
year?
been to a lot of them.
You get it all the time.
Yeah. So in my world of meetings, in which we go to them a lot a day, those types of things are called action items. The action items are get assigned to a specific person with a response. That can be brought and noted in our documents through Karen. Karen can, we have a question that was asked this week that you're gonna have to follow up on, Nancy, I believe, correct? We're gonna have to get back to Sam on something.
Oh, yes.
Right, exactly. So we lost that already, right? So.
It's written down.
No, it's not lost.
So my point is it becomes an action item, it gets assigned to you, and then you report back on the following week, or 2 weeks, or whatever the case may be. It can be as informal as an email, it can be informal as a phone call, but as long as the person gets the answer to what they're looking for, I think that's an option.
But does the answer go to just the person who asked, or does it go to everybody?
Well, that's Amy's point. Everybody
Yeah,
should have-
I think everybody needs to
share
It
that.
makes a great point, and I can give you an
Yeah.
example. Amy asked me a question one time by email, and you might have noticed this before. When a board member sends me an email and asks me a question, I respond to everybody. I don't know if you've ever noticed that, but Superintendent 101, you tell the board the truth, and you tell them everything, and you tell them all the same thing.
Yep.
And the best way to do that is if somebody has a good question, it makes your point, and Jim didn't ask, but maybe he'd like to know, it creates a lot of side conversation. So I think you make a good point. If somebody has a question of Nancy and they send Nancy an email, or phone call Carrie with a particular question about elementary class size, that information is responded to the whole board. That makes sense. And then you're covering, even if you didn't think to ask, it's good information to receive. So I think that can be definitely addressed through that.
Excuse me, Dean, if I
Yeah.
could say something. in prior years, we used to do what was called the transmittal. You, as board members, do see transmittals when I do have a sports schedule or staff vacancies. But they used to, the board members used to ask questions of the administrators, and the administrators would answer it as a board request. Answer the question per memo, it would go out in the transmittal every week. I don't know if that would be
That way everyone
something-
gets it, right. It's another, just another approach.
Yeah. I think we'll.
Without creating a new section to an agenda, a new element of the board meeting, that, you know, we've tried to make more robust.
And that can be done on board docs also, you can see.
Right.
that it's done a
And
little
so
bit,
then,
yeah.
with this type of format, then you're suggesting all the dialogue happens via email?
No, that's
So
not what I
then-
said. I said anytime any board member has a question, you can visit a
No,
director.
but I'm saying
you can
as far as
call.
it including everybody, I
Yeah,
understand that.
in order
Oh,
to
but
I'm
respond
saying-
to everybody, for everybody to get that information.
Right, then
it's
how
gotta-
is that dialogue gonna happen?
Oh, yeah, that can happen, but I think as I pointed out to the board at least once prior, you have to be careful that you don't use email as a vehicle for conversation. It's for you to ask a question of everyone, and it's for one of us to respond to, but you can't start chiming in or it becomes a meeting.
Right, and I guess, and that was kind of another part of what I was trying to do with saying, why don't we add this? Because if someone does ask the question, and then it comes to all of us, and then, you know, Linda chimes in, and then Brandon, now all of a sudden, now this is turned into, we can't do it. So that's why I thought, why don't we just put it in here? If someone has a question, you ask it, it comes back 2 weeks later, and we get the answer. And we're all here, and it's done here.
That's all part of it.
And if there's no email, there's no chance of crossing that line into turning an email into a board meeting. I guess that's where my brain was going when I thought about it, just because I just think it makes sense, and I know that we've all asked questions, and maybe somebody else then asks the same question, whatever, you know, I think that we're headed in the right direction, and I think all the changes that you and I talked about making this more conversational is fantastic. But I think this is just another step that we're all on as I personally email. I just think it's very easy to comment negatively behind the screen versus, you know, sitting here and having a nice conversation or whatever. So I would rather us talk. I think talking is good. That's me.
I just wanted to say one other thing. We really have worked very hard this year to bring forth presentations monthly. And we have a full schedule of presentations that are informational for the board. We had a special education presentation. We had a presentation on finance. We're going to continue to we're going to have a presentation on literacy task force. We're going to have a presentation on opportunities for high school learners. We have a whole calendar of things coming. If there's some other presentation that a board member would like, let us know. We'll work it into that schedule. The way we have it structured right now is the first meeting of the month is school-based. We want to give it to the principal to do kind of what we did tonight. And the second meeting of the month is for a more formal presentation. So that's the format we can use.
And do you guys already have the schedule? Like, so do you know now, like, what's gonna happen in January, February,
A
March?
few months out we do, but sometimes things pop up, like we changed, we've adapted a little bit because something comes up that I think is more critical. For example, Deb Casmer's group's presentation, if I can gather them quick to come in January, do their presentation on graduation rate, I might put off the literacy task force.
Right.
Because I want to get them in when it's more timely.
But you know the main things that we're gonna learn about,
Yeah.
which I think again is another great.
Yeah, curriculum-based presentations mostly.
Yeah.
But we started with the finance and special ed because there were a lot of questions about those parts of the agenda.
Right.
That we're asking you to approve a lot of things that we've never ever talked about before. And now, we're trying to provide more information.
No, I think that's all great.
Great.
Should you mention the upcoming dates about facilities?
I don't have them written down. What I did want to, can you help me out with that?
I think it's 19. Does that sound right? 19?
Well, I can talk about the next presentation. At the next board meeting, the next presentation is going to be
our architect and fiscal advisors. The facilities committee made tremendous progress on the capital project, and the next thing that's going to happen is our architects, our landscape designer, and our fiscal advisors group is going to come in and roll out a presentation to you on the capital project. Then you're going to have a period of time, the board is going to have a period of time to think about that, ask follow-up questions before the following meeting will be for the board to approve the capital project. And you can schedule a vote and start rolling out the public relations campaign to inform the community and go to vote. So those are the two things that are coming up quickly. A presentation by architects on the capital project, a board vote to approve the capital project 2 weeks later, and then the rollout of our CAP plan.
And we'll have a Q&A after their presentation?
The board can ask anything during the
Now,
presentation.
would there be a way for those of us who aren't on facilities to get that information before? Because sometimes it's information overload, like when you're getting the presentation, and I can't take it all in and then formulate my questions, and then I leave, and then I'm like, oh shoot, why didn't I ask about?
It's also why we got the buffer of a couple of weeks in between you looking at it, to you voting on it.
Yeah, but are they gonna be here the next meeting? That's what I'm saying, if the Q&A is, they're gonna be at the first meeting.
No, but I see what you're saying. We can get you their presentation in advance.
Right, that's what I mean. When
So-
they're here, to be able to discuss them. Because like, I don't know, whenever they came the last time, my head was spinning, and then I walked home and I was like, wow,
And that's
I
why
should've asked.
we specifically put in between the presentation and then the vote to accept it or not.
No, I
as a
understand
board.
that part, but.
But it gives us that discussion and to field those questions, to go through it, and so that we could have individual conversations.
You want to see the PowerPoint. You want to see the PowerPoint before they present.
Just to have an idea before we, so I'm not like, wow.
Yeah.
It's a lot
You
of
walked home
information.
after that
Yeah.
meeting?
No, I mean,
You
well,
were
walk to my
confused.
car if I walked, felt like I was walking. But no, it's just a lot to, all of the presentations, it's great, but it's like information overload sometimes. And then you get home and then that's how I work, that my brain processes it, so.
We're in the process of revising the PowerPoint presentation now with some suggestions that were made by the facilities committee, and as soon as that's finalized.
Yep.
Okay, that'd be great.
We had a facilities committee this morning that included fiscal advisors. So now we're at a place where we're really ready for the board to take a look at this and get moving.
Yeah, they pitched their
With a focus on the 7 schools.
making revisions and different instructions from different people along with the fiscal, taking some instruction of our comments, so we'll put the whole package together and so we can see the whole presentation.
Yeah, awesome. And who else is on the facility?
Sam, Tom.
And then are there other people, like
Yes.
from the district?
Rhonda.
The cabinet.
Yeah.
Rhonda. Dave Grissom-Foley.
So hold on, your turn.
Let's see who else.
Jamie's been there.
Occasionally Seth, because we're planning our PR campaign.
Yeah.
It's been a pretty robust group.
Yeah.
That's good, though.
8,
All
10
those
people. Yeah, it's a big group. Okay.
At this time, would there be a need for an executive session?
No, but I did want to point out that there was one issue, I didn't want to extend the meeting. So I did put out one email to the board today, a piece of important information.
I know, I tried to.
And I have been trying to use the emails that you desired. Is that helpful?
I put into here and have it out and forwarded from here in my regular email.
So it doesn't matter so much now.
It doesn't matter.
Amy likes the Oswego.org.
I like
You
having
like it
everything
better,
separated.
Linda?
I don't like my.
Tom, you like your old email?
I can get it on this, or I can get it on this, I like both.
Yours goes to your work.
Yeah, I do.
See, I don't
I've been
think
using the
this
old
out
ones because people were
Well, I downloaded the app, the Google app on my phone, so I can get those emails. Yeah, I like having it.
Because they both pop up. It's like,
At this time, could I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?